So I'm here to talk to you today about apprenticeships. This is my first time sort of talking to an audience face to face, so if I'm a little bit nervous, a little bit jittery, just forgive me. But I am a senior technical officer for track out in Tunbridge, and I am also a level 6 rail and rail systems engineering apprentice. So I'm going to spend the first little bit talking about my story and how I got to where I am today. So it starts all the way back, I think it was 2017, when I started at one of Kent's all girls grammar schools doing my A-levels. And from the moment I walked through the door of year 12, the pressure and expectation of me to gain a place at one of the top 10 universities in the UK was paramount. It came up in every discussion about my future, and the words Oxford and Cambridge soon began to send shivers down my spine. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my future. I had friends who had dedicated set career paths that they were so passionate about, and I just felt a bit lost. I explored a range of subjects that I wanted to potentially study, all the way from medicine through to photography, and even at one point I think it was film and theatre set design. It wasn't until I took a step back and I sat there and I thought, what do I enjoy? What am I good at? And the three subjects that I really excelled in at school and that I really enjoyed were maths, physics and product design. And those were the three subjects that I chose to study at A-level. When you look at those three subjects, you're looking at the building blocks for engineering. And that was when I had a light bulb moment about, maybe I want to be an engineer in the future. So I began looking around at universities, and at the beginning of year 13, everyone was talking to me about personal statement writing. I was spending my weekends travelling up and down the country, visiting different universities, looking at different engineering courses, because there's not just civil, electrical and mechanical, there's biochemistry, there's everything. There's anything you want to do in engineering, you can almost probably do. So I really struggled to find my feet, and after trying to look at options that weren't maybe actually advertised to me as effectively as they could have been through my school, I started looking at apprenticeships, and I found myself on the government's website for apprenticeships, where I saw Network Rail advertising their level 3 advanced scheme. I applied for it, and I automatically assumed that the intake would be September, and I thought, great, I'll finish my A-levels and I'll go join Network Rail. It felt like a bit of a sort of stagnant step, because I'd have finished my A-levels and I'd be going off to do an A-level equivalent course. But I knew I didn't want to go to university because I didn't want to learn engineering in a classroom. So I applied for it, and I was offered in a place in January 2019, and probably due to my mistake, they said the start date was March. I was due to sit my exams in the June. So I had endless conversations with friends, my parents, teachers and other family members. I had a real range of mixed opinions on what I should do, and I had a real range of support as well. I had people that really supported me and people that were telling me to turn down the offer and just carry on at university. But I decided that I was actually going to leave sixth form altogether. So I did 18 months of A-levels and left with no A-level qualifications. I joined Network Rail in the March, and I spent my first 6 months, back at that time it was at Westwood. And Westwood, I don't think exists anymore, but Westwood was probably the best 6 months of my life. I met lifelong friends. I had a great time. I had that university experience for that first 6 months that I feared I would miss if I didn't go to university. But it also set the building blocks for my railway engineering career. I learned the very basics and the very fundamentals and an introduction to the railway. And I really remember someone talking about a wet bed. And I was like, what is a wet bed? And I laughed. I didn't know what one was. But now I hear wet beds and I want to cry because they're the source of all of our problems. So after I completed Westwood, I went as an apprentice to Tunbridge, and I spent time moving around the depot, moving around the business. I spent time also outside of my depot. So I did all the typical discipline with S&T and E&P, but then I also spent time with different departments of the business, such as renewals, which really opened my eyes to what is potentially out there at maintenance. But ultimately, I found that my passion and my interest lied in the technical side of maintenance. So I spent the majority of my 2.5 years, and it was actually more like 3.5 after COVID, with the technical team at Tunbridge. After successfully eventually completing my level 3, I gained a permanent position as senior technical officer, and I spent the next sort of 18 months progressing my technical skills, so surveying, designing, and all the other technical duties that we do. And I was... Sorry, 1 second. So I spent the thingy. After 18 months, I sort of found myself wanting more. I still wanted to see more, I wanted to grow more, and I wanted to do more. So I was researching further opportunities, further courses, things such as like the ATME course that was talked about earlier wasn't available at the time. And one of my colleagues mentioned to me the Level 6 Rail and Rail Systems Engineering Apprentice. And I looked at it and I was involved, so I applied. I started my university career back in September of last year, and I've just finished my first year. I was very sort of daunted by going back to being an apprentice again. Doing all the coursework again, having all the deadlines and all the additional stuff that comes with doing an apprenticeship, whilst actually this time having a full-time job with day-to-day duties. But someone told me that you never grow in your comfort zone. So taking that step out and that leap of faith to do something that pushes your boundaries was something that I wanted to do. So I have learnt so much just in the first year. I've still got 3 years to go, but even that year I've broadened my horizons and I've learnt so much more about the railway and an industry as a whole that I could ever imagine. And I could look forward to progressing my career. I've recently been promoted to Principal Technical Officer, although I haven't taken up the position yet. And I look forward to, future positions such as track maintenance engineers like you on the roll. So that was a little bit about my story. So apprenticeships, like what's in it for me? If you're thinking about sat there and thinking maybe an apprenticeship is something I want to consider, there's a lot in it that you can do and there's a lot you can get out of it. So there are many reasons why you should consider undertaking an apprenticeship, such as gaining accredited qualifications up to and including master's level. So Network Rail supports apprentices from level 3, which is your A-level equivalent, 4, 5 and 6, which is your degree, and then 7, which is your master's. You have a structured learning programme to develop in your role and for future opportunities. You are gaining knowledge, skills and behaviours that are to standard of the Institute for Technical Education and Apprenticeships, and support, guidance and evidence to your professional registration applications from EngTech to iEng and CEng, depending on what course you're doing. You have interdisciplinary collaboration with colleagues from those in the industry and the supply chain. So in my level 6 particularly, this is important. I've met colleagues from London North Eastern Railways, Transport for London, Siemens, and having a chat with them as to see what they do has really sort of, again, expanded my knowledge of the railway as an industry as a whole. And the biggest bonus probably is that this is of no financial cost to yourself. You won't have any student debts to repay or anything like that. So I truly believe that apprenticeships are what you make of them. If you want to submit your coursework and sort of blend into the background, stay quiet and get it done, you can. But if you want to take every opportunity that is given to you, there are so many. So as an apprentice, I've been approached, and as you can tell, I'm probably very passionate about apprenticeships and my story. And I've had the chance to tell my story in multiple different publications. And also significantly, I was invited to have a talk with, at the time, the Secretary of State for the Department of Transport, Grant Shapps, with other leading women in the transport industry, so from aviation and buses and everything like that, about how we can propel public transport in the United Kingdom. So I do think there are a lot of myths surrounding apprenticeships and higher education as you get older. So some of the common myths we have are that apprenticeships are only for school leavers. Apprenticeships are not as good as degrees. Apprenticeships are only for those within manual or vocational roles. You will have to take a pay cut to be an apprentice. Those are all myths. So the facts actually are that you learn while you earn with no pay cuts or course repayments, as I said. You have an 80-20 split between your current day job and studying. So 80% of your time is spent in your day job and 20% of your time is spent studying. Usually they say it averages about 6 hours a week. There are no age limits. All age limits are welcome. I think in my level 3 scheme, we had an apprentice who joined the railway at the age of, I think he was in his late 50s, so absolutely no age limit. There is no minimum number of years worked at Network Rail required to do an apprenticeship, and you achieve professional qualifications which can support career growth and promotion. So I'm aware in this room that we probably have a lot of line managers, and a lot of people that maybe support apprentices in the level 3 and then hopefully potentially go on to do further apprenticeships. And a line manager's support to an apprentice's outcome is paramount. So as line managers, it's really important for you to take time to attend the periodic reviews of your apprentice and their institution. So for me, these are sort of every 12 weeks, so 3 times a year, and they're only about a 10-minute conversation to make sure everything's on track and that you're progressing as you should be. Answer any questions the apprentice may have. Some people are brand new to the railway, some people are more experienced, so the level of questions can sort of vary, but make yourself available for them. Support your apprentice to gain learning opportunities with colleagues and peers, both within your function and wider business, so going off and seeing how different departments work. Encourage and facilitate their attendance to any additional courses which may aid with their off-the-job training or continuous professional development. So I did a couple of courses during my level 3 which weren't sort of typical of a level 3 apprentice. Hold job progression conversations and provide career guidance. Look out for report any safeguarding concerns to my concern. Being an apprentice, life, coursework, everything you get on top, so it's important that you keep a track on those for your apprentices. Further line manager guidance can be found on the apprenticeship SharePoint. And again, I will just iterate that your continued support and guidance is key to your apprentice's success. So I'm just going to spend the second half today talking about the actual level 5 and level 6 rail and rail systems engineering apprenticeships. So on the screen now are 2 QR codes you can scan. The one on the left will take you to the level 5, which is the foundation degree, and the level 6 on the right, which is the bachelor's degree. Both are in support with the London South Bank University. These will come up on the end if you want to scan them again. So the level 5 and level 6 are delivered in conjunction with each other. The level 5 is 3 years and the level 6 is 4 years, and the first 3 years you are all together, and then the level 5s would go off and finish their degree, while the level 6s will stay on for 1 more year of learning. The entry requirements are the same of level 3 or level 4 Network Rail apprenticeship, or if you don't have that, A levels of 3 Bs, including maths and physics. And the qualifications achieved, the level 5 is obviously your foundation degree and your level 6 is your bachelor's, but both provide support to the incorporated engineer professional status. So similarly with the level 3, there are different pathways you can choose. The pathways sort of aren't as discipline-based as they were with the level 3 that you might be more familiar with. So as track engineers, we're probably looking at track engineering or rail civil engineering as the most applicable to us. But all of them incorporate some aspect of the other disciplines to do. And this is because the course itself is a systems engineering. It's not civil, it's not mechanical, and it's not electrical. It's a systems. So we're looking at the railway as a system of systems and using systems-based thinking of how we can improve the railway for the future. So I appreciate this might be very small for you to read, but this is just a little diagram that shows how the modules are delivered and the order that they're delivered in. So for me, who has just done year 1, my first 4 modules were railway industry professional practice, engineering maths, projects and asset management, and introduction to traction and rolling stock. And there is other modules that you go on, and depending on what route you take is depending on what different modules you take. So why is this course beneficial to me? So it is important that the 21st century railway engineer employs both engineering management and technical engineering skills to deliver safe, time and cost-efficient quality and value to service users. So the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education lays out key knowledge, skills and behaviours that an apprentice must meet in order to successfully complete their apprenticeship. And these knowledge, skills and behaviours provide the sort of framework for a successful railway engineer. And these include things such as business planning, research methodologies, whole life costing, delivering rail and rail systems engineering solutions effectively, and the use of communication and influencing skills. The university also works to international standards such as ISO 9001 and has accreditation from the Association of Project Management. So just to summarise, the key information for this course that you might want to take away with you today is that there is an intake in September each year. Applications for September 2024 are currently open and the closing date is the 28th of June. Applications form can be found on the Apprenticeships SharePoint. Both courses are delivered in weekly blocks 6 times a year. So you have a week in September, October, November, and then January, February, March. 2 modules are delivered simultaneously over 3 weeks. Each module has 2 pieces of coursework, so 8 pieces of coursework a year. And the modules are sort of, so you do your first 2 modules in the first semester, which is September, October, November, and then the second 2 in January, February, March. There is 100% coursework, no exams, so no studying. Coursework deadlines are usually pretty long, so if you're good time management skills, you can get them done relatively early and sort of keep ahead of the game. The scheme manager is Alice Holloway, and her email is on there if you want to contact her for any more information regarding applications or anything. And then I just also wanted to mention also the other apprenticeship schemes that Network Rail can sponsor you in. So they don't just do engineering, you can do leadership, HR, project management, data and digital, chartered surveyor, operations, as well as the engineering. And you can go beyond level 5 and 6 and do a level 7 engineering apprenticeship, which I think a few people in this room are on, and that is based here in the University of Birmingham. So thank you for listening. If you have any further questions, feel free to email me, or there's Alice's email again, and the QR codes again, which will take you direct to London South Bank University's website for both courses.